What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says. It is a very special episode that we've got for you today. I've got one of my two usual co-hosts on the screen, Kyle Henning. Kyle, how are we doing tonight, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Another day in the Super Bowl week. We've moved forward through media night, which we were recording during last night. We're gonna peek behind the curtain. We're recording on Tuesday. I'm not sure when this is gonna drop yet. We're still working all that out, but
Yeah. It's
doing well
it's
and
a
excited to have our guests on. So
yeah, we've got a really great guest on here today. As you see, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see him at the top right of the screen, Mr. Joshua Brisco. Josh, how are we doing today, sir?
I'm all right, man. You got at Super Bowl week, Super Bowl month. I just did a wild since we're just letting people peek behind the curtain. This is the most professional podcast I will do today. It will not be close.
I don't know about that.
No, you haven't seen the episode yet. I'm
That's true. Yep.
I'm gonna be proven
That's
right
true.
by the passage of time. It's a super fun, very exciting time, but also, man, what a freaking whirlwind we are in right now.
Yeah, it's crazy times in the kingdom with Super Bowl, obviously the fourth Super Bowl in 5 years. And this one has been just way crazier than every other one combined, I'd say, just because of everything that's happened to the Chiefs this year, how this postseason has gone, how the Super Bowl matchup itself, like all the talk and the excuses that have been on one side of the ball. It's very interesting to say the least. Josh, how do you feel about early on of the way that the Super Bowl week has gone so far?
Well, so I'm going to take what you said and note nothing you said is wrong. This is not a correction. This is an emphasis.
Okay. Yeah.
It's Tuesday. Tuesday of Super Bowl week. And you're right. It's like, man, this year has been crazy. This playoff run has been crazy. Media night is always kind of nuts, although I did realize this year I was talking to Jordan Foote as we were figuring out what we were going to do on Arrowhead Report for everything on Monday night. And I was like, oh, last year I was at a Death Cab for Cutie concert during all of this. I bought those tickets way before I knew what the media schedule was going to be, and I wasn't going to not see them. I loved the album they were touring on. So it was great. But you guys are both right to note how crazy and hectic and chaotic this has all been, and it feels like in so many ways, like you alluded to, like this is an appropriate end to a wild season that has had so many twists and turns, and then you get all of the madness you get through these first 2 days of media weeks that we've gone through. It'll get a little more buttoned up from here, where the players will get a little bit more partitioned off from the masses of media. But man, it has been wild, and I don't think it's going to get less wild over the next couple days.
It's so your point to the wildness of just the variance in the first couple days of media. We've had such a variety of things that have happened, and I think one of the things that's made this year a little different is, and I'm not trying to hate here, but the coverage of this year's Super Bowl media of the two main outlets, NFL Network, I guess, and CBS, which was like CBS Sports, their broadcasts of media night last night were ungood. If I was just going to rate that on a scale of a lot of the years past Super Bowls to this one, yeah, I mean, I was having to find most of the stuff on like Twitter and YouTube clips and stuff because the CBS broadcast at one point on Paramount was showing us basketball highlights that they were broadcasting live from the Super Bowl of Wisconsin basketball, and I was like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but no one cares, and I mean that legitimately. Like, nothing against Wisconsin men's basketball, but that's not why we're watching you live.
That's not what we're
here
Super
for. Bowl.
Yeah, sorry.
That's not on the DirecTV listing for that, or YouTube TV or whatever. It's not Wisconsin men's basketball highlights.
So, like,
honestly, all of Super Bowl week in itself is just it's kind of a wild concept to really think about it. Like, they have to, only some of the players had to sit up there for like an hour. It's like an hour and a half media time where they just sit there and get peppered with literally every single. I mean, at a certain point, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes in, there's no way there's like any good questions coming anymore. It's like these guys are just up there kind of stuck. And then other guys, like, I mean, I saw like Tershawn Wharton. I think he just played Madden the entire time. I don't know how he got that gig, but he was just on the Madden sticks like the entire night. Like, I don't know how they partitioned that one, but he won in that case, because that's a lot. That's a lot to just sit up there and answer questions for like an hour and a half about nothing.
Well, to the point of nothing, where we've had questions. I don't know, Josh. What's the wildest question you've heard this week bar like a Rushmore already, or what? Because I've got
So,
3 or 4 that are just like,
we're
what?
getting another curtain is being parted that I'm stepping behind now, because at 8:10 today we got people in Vegas and we got a lot going on. So while we were playing Andy Reid's presser today, being Tuesday, I was running around and routing things, doing a whole bunch of radio stuff. And so I hear a cackling from multiple places in the studio, and I still have not heard this yet, guys. I've not actually heard this with my own ears.
I think I know where you're going.
It was apparently a German reporter being
Yep.
like, "Coach, do you have any opinions on like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and somehow this involves Joe Biden?" And apparently Andy Reid handled it like pretty well. You know, we met Joe at the White House, and he seemed like a nice guy, and that's kind of all I got for you, man. So God bless Andy Reid for that, I guess. But
Yeah.
that's my 1-1 right now for like absolutely most wild thing. And let's go third layer of curtain. We're so many curtains are behind us right now.
Pull 'em back.
This is something that simply does not happen any other day of the week or day of the year, week of the year. This is a one of one NFL media mess. The way that the Chiefs handle their day-to-day PR could not be more different than the way that Super Bowl week is executed. You may even notice, like during championship week, the NFL gets more involved from a public relations standpoint. And so that's why we end up having like 5 or 6 players at the podium each day, as opposed to the Chiefs' usual schedule, which they like stream now, which is great because I think they realize that people want to see and hear that.
Yeah.
But you may notice in your patterns, you get Andy Reid on Monday, and you get Reid and Mahomes and somebody else on Wednesday, and Thursdays you get coordinators and sometimes a player. Fast Friday for Andy, and then maybe Travis Kelce some late in the year. That's the schedule that as the Chiefs sort of laid it out during the regular season. Now
it's been that way for a while.
It's been that way, right? For a while, Tyrann Mathieu was an honorary fourth coordinator because he would always talk on Thursdays after the coordinators. You guys get it. And now the other side of the coin is welcome to Super Bowl opening night and Super Bowl week and all of these things that you also may notice. They've got fonts for this now. Look, I love branding. I love your guys' branding. I was thinking about this. I was sitting. He's like, man, that Kingdom script you guys have, whatever font you pulled there, it's a really nice one. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Call that dude. That way.
Good work, Garrett. I like it.
Preach,
but like
preach.
that, I like that stuff. I care about graphic design and weird things that lots of people don't care about. I was like, boy, they're really going hard with the branding this year. It's like, oh yeah, because they're trying to make it a television event. Everything that can turn into more content, the NFL and sports teams and anywhere in media right now, anything that can be content is going to be content. If doing this show from my toilet would work better for content, I would think. I took my shirt off briefly on Weird Games today for the content. Like everyone's doing it.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah, so it was no nips or anything, Garrett. Just shoulders, just letting the guns out a little. So yeah, it's, for so many of those reasons, it's different and weird leading up in this week, and none of that is about the fact that on Sunday they play a game for the championship.
Yeah, the NFL sure does love doing that, where every single week of the year now has to have some type of content. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see it a lot with like the combine. It's always a big thing, but I'm sure some of those like the All-Star games we'll see. That'll be a big thing. They need content 24/7 in the NFL, so it's good to see.
And there's
good to see.
now.
There are.
The NBA draft is going to 2 days for 2 rounds. Who cares? I don't watch the second round of NBA draft coverage. I look at my phone afterwards.
The first round of NBA draft coverage.
I will typically I'll usually watch the picks until it seems like the A-list guys are out. Yeah. Which some years it's 1, some years it's 5, some years it's the lottery, but that's it.
Like, I barely pay attention to the NBA, but it seems like if you're not in the top 5, you're not even getting anyone anyway. So who really
And I'm
cares,
a Suns fan, and they don't have any draft picks for like 20 years now, so who cares? But everyone's trying to make more content out of the product, scheduled drops and all of that. And so the NFL's doing that this week in a pretty big way. I think it being in Vegas makes it easier to accentuate also, but that's all the chaos of it.
Yeah, definitely got to take advantage of it being in Vegas.
They've adapted to and a lot of companies can't live like this, but the NFL can. Any pub is good pub is an NFL mantra at this point, and they've adapted to it. Even with all of the stuff that you've heard all season long about the officials or some of the conversations and questions that Goodell gets asked because he only gets to the podium like once a year, twice a year. He doesn't have to answer many questions from the media very often. So from the NFL standpoint, they love it. They don't care what it is. However they can get the content, they get content. And that's what was so baffling to me about the NFL Network's production and the CBS production of all of the content that they were generating. They weren't really covering it that much on the places they were supposedly streaming it out of. So, but you mentioned the NFL getting involved. That allowed us Kadarius Toney conversation.
That's right.
You wanna dive into that a little bit, since Nate talked about it a little bit on Only Weird, and you talked about.
I still have my story up and my notes up over here. Yeah, man. So Nate's story in The Athletic is great because it has his conversation with Kadarius, and it has the NFL Network bit, which was
Michael
got
Robinson
the video out there with Michael Robinson. Yeah,
saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I joked about this, I think, after the show. So this is a little extra nuggy. I did not get a life raft off of the Kadarius Toney ship. Like that, I drowned on that ship. It hit the iceberg, and I was like, I think it might still float. Let's see. Everyone's like, we're gonna get off here. And so I got all the way to the freaking morning of the AFC Championship game. And that for me was when I was like, well, I guess I'll start swimming. And like, well,
where's the door? Where's
exactly.
the door?
Yeah, it's like you've been underwater for like a month, dude. This isn't the. Sorry, how are you even conscious? So that whole thing, I am willing to extend some amount of benefit of the doubt to Kadarius Toney insofar as like, did a Giants fan DMing him instigate all of that? Totally possible. Totally possible.
Yeah.
It has before.
It has before. That's exactly.
A lot of times,
and keep that in mind. Let's remember the word precedent here, everybody. But so if that set him off, it would make logical sense because it's happened before. No decision he made from that moment on was a good one on the morning of the AFC Championship game. Now, he also, in his Instagram thing, is talking about, it goes from hip to ankle to this to that. I'm in a body cast right now at this point. Well, he was listed in the weeks leading up to the IG Live. He was listed with hip and ankle, and then hip personal, or maybe ankle personal. I can't remember which one got dropped at that point.
Yeah,
I believe it was hip personal.
It is hard for me to give all of the benefit of the doubt to a player who has done things like this before, and if it's just Giants fans getting under his skin, and if he's dead honest, everything he said on media night, it's still really, really silly. If it is still going live, if it's still going live to be like, the Chiefs are lying about my injury, I'm not hurt, which is what it sounded like from all the things that we saw, and from people who watched more of it than that. That is abhorrent, not like it's the worst thing you can do morally, but it's just so foolish that you would do that to a team that has actually had your back throughout this process. So what Nate said on Weird Games was interesting, and detailing some of that conversation. His story is really good. I'd be surprised if he's active on Sunday, and I'd be shocked if he was in the offense. That's kind of where I'd draw that line right now for him. And he's got all the talent in the world. I would love for this to work out. I just explained why I'm still talking in these terms, like maybe there's a chance. And that kind of makes me feel like a moron.
Yeah. We had said it on even like the last episode, how this coaching staff has a big track record of being very loyal and having faith in guys throughout the entire thing. And like you said, so many people have supported him. Like Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes had to take the high road on him the entire season, basically. And then, just the whole thing in the morning of the AFC Championship. And it's like, if it is the Giants fans, how are you still getting mad about that stuff? Like that was this last offseason where that was a big deal. And it's like,
who cares what they're saying?
Yeah, at a certain point, bro, you got to get off your phone.
They're
like,
at home and have been. Yeah,
I think it's really telling kind of the response that we've seen from the coaching staff. Andy Reid, I think, was asked about it yesterday and said, well, we'll see. We'll see if he plays or not. And I think Dave Tobe at least said that he would be in the mix of punt returner.
Sure.
Like I said, probably not
because
the
you've
offense.
You've seen him return kicks, and you go, wow, what an incredible, unique mover with the ball in his hands. The car zooms by and you go, man, that thing is pretty. That engine is purring. That thing is getting up to speed. And it's like, well, yeah, but injuries notwithstanding, I don't know if we're in a world where your car has an OS now. I don't know if the operating system's going to be there for me on Sunday when I need it to fire up. Like, it's just, I kind of, and maybe this is me being too empathetic, I kind of feel for Kadarius Toney because how horrendously this season went, and he got hurt before training camp started, and then week 1 went as bad as it could have possibly gone for him in his first action back. I feel for the fact that this season has been an absolute nightmare year for him. At some point, though, the Chiefs, like you guys said, the Chiefs will give talent and effort try after try after try, chance after chance after chance. If you are talented and you are trying and you can be relied on, we'll keep giving it a shot, man. We'll try it for as long as it takes. They already invested in him. Absolutely. And
MBS did it.
Now we're at this point where I'll be really curious to see where this goes from here.
So Tom made a joke, I think, to lead our podcast episode yesterday, which was, we are the #1 Chiefs podcast if we just get the views. And I don't know if you heard Kadarius Toney in, I believe it was the NFL Network interview.
It was.
I think it was with Mike Robb, yeah.
Essentially, he said, I could be a #1 wide receiver if I just got the ball. And that's the awareness side of things for me, that while, yes, I'm empathetic, like Josh is saying, like I've this year has been awful because he didn't even get to the first drill of practice. It was pre-practice that he got hurt in training camp, basically. It was the first punt.
Recreationally fielding punts before the first practice.
So that's the start. Then he's rushed back because of Travis getting hurt essentially the day before the Detroit game to start the year. And so now everything's out of whack. Then that goes how that goes. Then he comes back and he's a little healthier, but he still has the drop problems. And we talked about it when he had the drop problems. Tyreek had drop problems that went the other way, but Tyreek also had the production that went with it. So you can't have both. And it's the awareness thing too. We talked about the Instagram Live, and then we just talked about the comments to Mike Robb. How many times can you tell us that you don't have any awareness before we believe that you don't have any awareness?
Yeah,
that's a big
It's really
factor.
tough to be like, just throw me the ball more, and then to see how the year went when he was throwing the ball.
And
there's a lot more than just the physical talent that has to happen for that to come together. I mean, hey, when I rebuilt the Chiefs in Madden, he was a great wide receiver one. But in real life, there's a lot more that goes into it. And the mental side is definitely the part he struggles in a lot, I think.
Patrick did throw him the ball so many times so that Patrick finally almost pulled his hair out on the sidelines after he threw him the ball again, and it went the same way it went in Detroit and earlier, and it just kept happening. Now, you can say the same thing about MVS. One thing I will say about MVS's drops is at least usually when he dropped them, they hit the turf.
Yeah.
And what do they say? What do they say when they talk about MVS over the course of this year? Like when you say, hey, what do you know? Obviously Marquez hasn't had the year that he wanted to have. What do you see from him in practice every day? Oh, he's doing the same stuff. He's out there being himself. He's out there working hard every day. He's blocking downfield. And again, however much of this is Kadarius Toney's injury is one thing. Like if he's hurt, I'm not saying you can't block downfield when you're inactive or whatever. But if there was a world where Kadarius Toney, where the Chiefs were confident that Kadarius Toney would make them a better football team, he would have been playing.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a very good way to sum it up. Yeah, they're not afraid to use guys who are struggling, but as just
even guys making mistakes or on a cold streak or whatever. I mean, it's all there, and it's unfortunate this is the path this is taken, because I understand why they watched him and watched his tape and went like, man, Andy, what do you think you could do with this guy in your offense? Like, man,
it was for a little while. It was for a little while until
And even then, when he's done the things, when he does get the ball into his hands, as we've mentioned, it is kind of fun because he does do the times he's not hurt and the times he doesn't drop it. It's been quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
The problem is those haven't happened enough. So
yeah, that's right.
We've beat that horse to death, I think, at this point. He's probably a great scout team guy for like a Debo Samuel read for the defense. So I'm sure that was probably nice.
Yep. Yeah, he'll get another ring this year, and then
and maybe he gets another chance. Like, well, maybe not. I don't know. Clyde. Everybody thought Clyde was gone after last year, and then they used Clyde as Devontae Smith. Apparently,
I sure wish, but
thought he was going to be active. And
not everybody thought Clyde was gone. No. My character arc on Clyde has covered a lot of ground.
You and I were on that page, Josh, but somebody over here is not a. I do that every time. It's backwards.
Yeah, the flipped video thing.
The mirrored.
I'm so really used to it.
Yeah.
This guy and others are not the largest, but I've said for a long time he at least has a role. So. To keep going with the media night thing, though, bulletin board material is a subject that I want to get into a little bit, because everybody was expecting to get a little bit of it from Kansas City, especially with Nick Bosa's comments and some of the other stuff and the field stuff. Well, I should say everybody outside of Kansas City, because we all pretty much knew there's no chance they're giving you guys anything to work with.
No, I mean that's Coach Reed's special. Like you're gonna respect your opponent. That's the one thing that Coach Reed really harps on.
And there were media members that went to Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith and didn't just kind of gently beat around. Like a lot of the KC media will like suggest questions to them or hint at things. These two, they were flat out, hey, Nick Bosa said you guys hold. What do you think about that? That was so. From that aspect, how much more? I mean, we know what they do with bulletin board material, but it was odd that San Francisco seemed to be so willing to dole it out, and whether it was the players or the fan base, based on the booing and everything.
Yeah, the booing at media night, that was pretty fun. That was a good time.
what's your where are you at with the bulletin board material already provided, and what might continue going forward? Because the villain era is, I think we've established, is here.
Yeah, and that's also pretty fun. We can talk about that more too if you want. But I thought it was weird that it started in San Francisco. And I don't mean from the Niners.
So
I mean
early.
in San Francisco or Santa Clara or whatever. It's like, man, all you got to do to keep that from being a thing is to say, yeah, I mean, Donovan Smith played in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and Jawan Taylor's a really good player. So, yeah, penalties, whatever. He's got to play him for one game.
Hey, man, that
was easy. That too. That's a pretty easy thing for me to just do. Like they hold a lot, and then Jed York getting in on the action also was wild. So I don't like the booing in the stadium. If that was Niners fans or Raiders fans or other NFL fans who are sick of seeing Travis Kelce's beautiful face, whatever. I'm not gonna hold fans to a bulletin board standard because everybody talks, every fan base has got some chirpers, all of that, right? But the fact that the Niners seemed so willing to do that, and one of the stars and the owner were willing to do that, was really strange to me. Because like you guys alluded to, it's not going to happen with the Chiefs, certainly not on purpose, and certainly not without consequences. Like Justin Reed, who is smart and like not letting stuff slip out very often, he gets one of those leading into the Bengals game, and it's like we didn't hear from that dude for a couple of weeks, and now he's back to Justin Reed and being the guy that we heard him being before. Those are conversations that get had, I believe, of like, listen,
I think so.
It's not. I don't even know, honestly, guys. I don't know what the impact of bulletin board material actually is. If the Niners would have said nothing all week and the game kicked off, are you suddenly picking the Niners if you were going to pick the Chiefs by 2 points? Probably not, right? But there's something to the process of it all. And do you see what they said today? All right, let's go practice. And maybe you're a little more dialed in there. The main thing is just like, hey, don't have unforced errors. Don't unnecessarily call Nick Bosa the lesser Bosa and light some fire that way. It doesn't help you at all. And obviously the Chiefs got that memo because there were literally, I mean, dozens and dozens of hours of audio that have come out of these first two media days. So I guess I haven't heard everything. But the craziest thing that I heard from a Chiefs player was, not to bring it back around again, but Kadarius Toney being like, yeah, just give me the ball and I'm a number one receiver in the NFL. Like, that was the only thing. I didn't hear anything about the Niners.
That was said about anything about that. Yeah, there's definitely a show of how each organization and each team is kind of run, And, I mean, to the Niners' credit, like, they've been in the NFC Championship multiple years, the past couple years, the same way the Chiefs have, just Super Bowls wise, and just you have a more veteran coaching staff. You have a lot older, respected guys. It's just a very clear difference that I think will probably make a little bit of a difference. At least, like I said, it's how much if they didn't say all this stuff, would there still have been a lot to use as material? Maybe. I mean, I think a lot of people may have been jaded from the Michael Jordan documentary where he just kind of used any little thing as a motivator. It's the great ones do. I think the great ones really can find even little things like that and make it something.
I think the Chiefs beat the Ravens if Justin Tucker just stays out of the way anyway, but I also don't think Justin Tucker helped. That's kind of where I fall,
Yeah. Definitely don't need to poke the bear with that, especially the villains, as you say, and you talked about it a little bit. I want to hear your thoughts, Josh, on the villain era that the Chiefs are now in. We've talked about it a lot, how we are loving it. It's really cool. The Patriots were like this for 20 years, and every other fan base had to experience it. And now it's our turn. And it's everybody, the world versus KC. It's one of those things that every other fan base has already been burned by Patrick Mahomes at least once, probably. We're on their TV literally all the time. National TV, Super Bowls. It's never going to end. Commercials.
Every
That's
commercial
a big
you
thing.
turn on.
Entertainment television, every corner of the internet.
Yeah, literally all of them. It's there's no escaping it. So I'm glad to see that the Chiefs players, and I think a lot of Chiefs fans, have embraced that villain role. How are you taking it so far?
I think the omnipresence of the Kansas City Chiefs is not something I thought I would ever live to see. Like, it's so outrageous to say out loud. The Chiefs are everywhere. The Kansas City Chiefs are unavoidable. So I think, again, this right now, these couple of weeks, and maybe this next offseason, and last offseason certainly did this some, but I think it's about making Chiefs fans understand why it's happening the way that it is. Because it's not that people don't like Kansas City barbecue or that they think Kansas City sucks as a city or whatever. It's the fatigue that got to all of us during the Brady era. It's greatness and it's omnipresence. It's so this year's going to end with the Patriots in the Super Bowl again also. All right. Dude, I rooted so hard for those Giants teams as a kid just because I was rooting against Tom Brady. That didn't make me a hater. I was just invested because I was tired of seeing the stinking Patriots rip everybody's hearts out. So, like, hell yeah, let's go, Eli Manning. Like, an icon because he did something that nobody else was doing. So that's where it comes from, and I think that's important because you don't take it personally. The worst angle of it right now is everything getting conspiratorial in the field and the points and the refs and all of that. That to me is really frustrating because it takes away from the best part of sports hate, which is when you eventually at the end of the game, you have to sit back and go, got me. You got me. This freaking guy, he did it again. Jordan did it again. LeBron did it again. The Warriors did it again. You can do that to the great ones and kind of you can be devastated and then shrug your respects and try again next year. And when it's all, the NFL wants the Chiefs to win because that's what they wanted. They wanted a dynasty in Kansas City, Missouri, and then the next best team in the conference is in Buffalo, New York, and the next best team in the conference is in Cincinnati, Ohio. Like, man, Roger Goodell is really bad at pulling the biggest media markets. Why aren't the Cowboys good? It's foolish.
I started laughing hysterically today when you guys went into that part on Only Weird Games because myself, Garrett, Tom, and D-Mac sat and had a very similar conversation to this last night on our episode of, they're rigging it for the smallest media markets in the league. Yes, that's their...
Also, what? Guys, there's not a frozen envelope going back to the NBA draft lottery or whatever. The quarterback out of Texas Tech is the greatest thing we've ever seen. And they got him by trading up, not to number 1 overall, to 10. There were 9 picks ahead of him, and there were 2 quarterbacks who were, by and large, consensus going into that draft, who were supposed to go ahead of Mahomes, and the Chiefs traded up to 10 for that guy. Yes, and then he was perfect at football, and the NFL was like, guys, we're doing it, man. We are nailing this one. This is the one. It's really silly.
And then they went out and got Travis Kelce to date Taylor Swift, and now we're rigging elections too.
Yes, Roger Goodell sat down with Taylor Swift, and he was like, "All right, Taylor, I know you're the most maybe one of the most powerful people in the world from a whole lot of metrics, but let me tell you about this cute little tight end in Kansas City, Missouri, who you are going to love. I know you love Lawrence, Kansas. You know it's not too far away from that, Kansas City, Missouri. So let's go ahead and check out this guy with the beard." It's like,
Did you know they're going to be playing their home games there for the football team this year?
Whoa, that's a good. Hold on, this is full circle. That's good. So Roger Goodell also got the KU Stadium remodeling whole thing going.
He made KU football good again.
Yeah,
that's how they got that stadium refunded. And nobody ever thought that was going to happen again.
I mean, there's so many strings being pulled behind the scenes. That's just like, again, that part sucks because it takes the fun out of it. Like, Brady was a cheater because of Spygate, and Deflategate was still in some amount of good faith and good fun. How many points did they beat the Colts by in the Deflategate game? Was it like 40?
Deflategate we talked about that last night too. Deflategate is really over here. Spygate was real. Spygate was the thing that they were supposed to do. Deflategate, the football being a PSI less where they lost by 40 is not what. But that
could not be less relevant to me.
Exactly.
And that's Spygate, again, real, fair. Michigan just won a title and got their head coach paid. And we're like, well, it's nothing else we could do, I guess.
Well,
it's just sometimes stuff like that happens. The whole yeah, I'll tell you what, if somebody comes out with a great reporting about how pick your favorite ref, I guess, how Bill Vinovich has a Chiefs tattoo on his butt and $3 million in unexplained payments, then like, all right, cool. Well, then there's a smoking gun, and that's obviously not where we're at. So back to the villain thing.
Not the NBA. That's not Scott Foster or whatever was.
That's
going
also
on that scenario.
Scott Foster, man.
Yep.
Now you ruined my mood all over.
Sorry, Chris Paul
okay.
nearby. He's in a Chris Paul adjacent fan. He was on the Suns for a while.
Yeah, and it's okay. I've grown to accept a whole lot of things about that basketball team over the years. So the villain thing, I think you saw in that clip with Kelsey's beard looking outrageous and him getting those boos and going. You can see his eyes just like you could virtually. I don't think this is actually true. You could almost see his pupils dilate and be like. A little The Rock thing of, I got a microphone. You guys are getting me fired up. You got a little bit of game day Travis Kelce right there, which was fun. I think he loves it. I think Mahomes is embracing it because he realizes that's where they're at right now. I think the rest of the Chiefs have kind of figured out that that's just the brand now. Other people decided that for him.
Yeah, being the heel is very fun. I think if anyone's ever watched wrestling, being the heel
and they're not villains because they yap about other teams or whatever. And they're not villains because they're disrespectful or whatever you want to pick. Like, they just are the villains because they're too good. Sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely
Go ahead, Garrett.
I was just gonna say it's more of a testament. I think that people are just they almost just don't want to see the greatness. I think they just really want to deny everything they can, and so that's why you see so many different excuses of the refs and all this different stuff. I think that we as a collective are in a good place right now, though, where it's like we kind of have ammo for everything back. You know, any kind of dumb take that people have nowadays. I mean, we have something to answer it for. Like
just ask Seth. Yeah, he'll do it for you.
yeah. Like,
his
hey, you hate Taylor
on Twitter
Swift
for the last several days.
You just like Taylor Swift about being in the NFL and stuff. Sorry, she's bringing a lot of audience to the NFL. There's a lot of young women who are now into the NFL. Like, it's good. It's good for the NFL. You know, all the rigged and we have at least the ammunition to fight back on it now, and I think it really infuriates people even further.
The transition from 2019 Super Bowl against the Niners, where everybody and their mother wanted us to win the game, and it didn't matter who it was. Everybody in the country wanted us to win the game.
Yep.
To the maps being completely inverted for the AFC Championship game when it was Baltimore all over the map to us. To Mahomes' quotes, Jeff Darlington, we talked about it some, but Jeff Darlington's, I'll smile through it, but I'll still be the villain for them if they need me to. And then immediately last night when the microphone is in his hand, right after Brock Purdy gives Taylor Swift ammunition to the Chiefs Kingdom fan base. I don't know if Travis will take anything from it, but the fan base did.
He got asked a direct question. I feel like Purdy did what he could there. Yeah, Purdy did pretty much.
He did not ask for that.
If there's anything we know about Brock Purdy, he dealt with what he had around him. He made the best of it. It wasn't great. You know, that's...
Which he also said about his team was, I got a bunch of really good... Because, he basically got asked, are you ready to disappoint Taylor Swift? What do you want him to say? No?
Right. Like, I would hate that. I'd rather lose than disappoint Taylor Swift.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
So, but from that perspective, immediately after that, they're booing Mahomes, and he hits him with the, we hear you, and we're here, and nothing over the top, nothing crazy, nothing, just level out, matter of fact.
I acknowledge your existence. You are real.
Crush it. And now I want to crush it because we hear you. And we talked about the Jordan documentary and the personal stuff and whatnot. He hears, as I think Nate said it today, and either in an article, one of his articles, or on the show today. I've read a bunch of his stuff today too.
Me too.
He hears everything.
I can't remember either. Yep.
He hears everything. Whether it's the weirdos on Twitter, I don't know, whoever Craig Carton is, that guy and the rest of those dudes firing out
Where did he
takes.
come from? So who
He's
found,
on Fox Sports
what
one
random network is he
early
on?
in the
Yeah,
morning.
no, so his story is actually hilarious. You finish your point, and I'm going to get you a proper retelling of the Craig Carton experience.
So there's that guy, and there's David Carr always. That dude, I love that man now. He just hands Bobby and Patrick material every single time he talks about them. It's great. And then you go through the rest of that. The check mark GIF that goes around Twitter with his head on that we've taken over that GIF of. I don't even know who the GIF was originally of anymore.
I think it was Dwight from The Office. Yeah,
of making the check right in the office and all these things. He does have those things. Bobby tracks them for him and analogs it out and says it all. Like, he loves it. So if you're gonna feed him and they're gonna get this treatment now, they're repurposing Brady memes and gifs for him. Like the ref kissing the ref gif or meme is Brady. They just took Patrick's head and jersey and stuck it on the same. Like, it's the same
playbook.
Same thing. Yep. Yeah.
So it's just so enjoyable to watch this team understand that, and it's never leaving. But I mentioned it, like the T-shirts that we make aren't the Patriots T-shirts where it's like, oh, people said mean things about us. The T-shirts are like, oh, we love Spags, or oh, we're about ourselves, or oh, it's this team. So there's a little bit difference, but there's also still so many parallels that it's now almost kind of driven a understanding between certain segments of that Patriots fan base of like, hey, you guys know what it feels like now.
So to get back to this show's most important storyline on Craig Carton. So he was at WFAN for a long time and very successful. I'm just going to read you a blurb of his Wikipedia page, and then I'll see if I can add any further context you may need to know. During its 10-year run, Boomer and Carton became the most listened to show in WFAN history, placing first among men ages 25 to 54. In September 2017, Carton resigned from the program and WFAN after his arrest for securities and wire fraud. He was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison, and after serving 12 months, he was released in 2020. That year, he was rehired by WFAN, for which he currently hosts the #1 rated afternoon drive program with Evan Roberts. I believe just so we can calibrate our jokes, I believe the underlying problem of this may have stemmed from some sort of gambling addiction, which is explicitly not funny. But the fact that, I mean, wasn't the thing today that like his bets are lethal or something?
I think so. I think that was the quote.
Okay. Listen, addictions are real and not funny. But it's a weird turn if that's what it stemmed from. And I have not gotten the entirety of the reporting of all of this. I just wanted to make sure I got at least those details correct. We all could do a better job of deciding whose opinions we care about, myself included.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a way to democratize that more. Like, I know Reddit has a downvote button, and it's too binary. Like, this is good or this is bad doesn't really fix the problem, because you're going to get a whole lot. You're going to get 31 fan bases saying this meme of Patrick Mahomes kissing the ref is funny and hilarious and accurate. It's like, well, you can't really community notes that. But I don't know. We gotta make some strides as a society here within the next 2 or 3 years, or we're like super bad shape.
I like Jordan's. You mentioned Jordan Foote. I don't know, a little bit earlier. I like he's been doing it for a while. I've adopted it with him a long time ago when he started it, which is we don't interact with bad tweets. We just screenshot them. And
Jordan took this from me. I don't like that he has gotten credit for this. No, I think he should. Group of us. I do actually want him to get the credit for it, but I wanted to put him on blast first.
That's fine. So that whole thing started, and that's been like, because the other one that is my personal favorite of late, which is a hybrid spinoff of that, which we get a lot with this Chiefs team, is I said something stupid, then got barbecued for it, and now I'm a victim. And I've basically started creating an archive, and some of them are people I like, but it's like, you cannot go out and engagement farm with something dumb and then get roasted for it and then come back and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do it right for you guys and didn't do this that way or that way. Like, no, you just knew what you were doing. If you know what you're doing is engagement farming and then you get roasted for it, just take the barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it's way too common nowadays, I think, where a lot of people really have it in their head that like any press is good press type deal, like any
That's what I
type of
mentioned
engagement
earlier.
is good engagement. And it's
No,
like
only certain things
it's
can do
really
that.
not. Like you just kind of like you might get a lot of impressions and views on your stuff, but everyone thinks you're an idiot. So like what's the benefit? You're not moving ad deals, you're not no one really wants to partner with you. Like you're just talking just to talk. It's definitely ridiculous, and I agree, Josh, that we as a society really need to kind of respect and limit who we really take seriously on some of those takes. Because some guy that was in jail for a couple years and hosted a sports show, I don't know if his opinion really matters. I don't know if he's ever played in the NFL or knows anything about.
Or managed like Josh just. I think there were some pieces you could draw from the gambling problem, potential issues to the fraud,
probably,
potential issues that might connect some dots
Well,
on
but like,
why that's a
but like,
problem.
Garrett, you also just gave us a really good example of what is insufficient in terms of ruling somebody out. Because unless I missed a really important detail about both your guys' life, none of us played in the NFL.
That's true.
And
That's true.
I would imagine none of the three of us played at a terribly high level. So what I think we can do, and this is way harder than like an upvote and a downvote button, but what I think we can do is use our best human judgment to try to discern before I interact with this thing, is it in good faith? Is the person on the other side of this trying? And I don't mean are they right or are they good or are they brilliant, but are they trying in a way that is not disingenuous?
Yeah.
And if we could just interact with people being genuine about things, then we at least have some amount of common ground to set on. Because if you give me the dumbest opinion you have, but you believe it for reasons that kind of make sense, but the end result of you saying Kadarius Toney should be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, if that's your take, but you can walk me through your logic,
sure,
I gotta sit here and listen to it. I gotta at least give you that, and then I can say, well, here's why I don't agree with that, and then here's all of my logic behind it. But when you're in a world where one tweet going mega viral and riling up one fan base and getting a bunch of other fan bases on your side, if that gives you 20,000 Twitter followers like that, hell yeah, you're going to do it. And then people will forget why you got famous. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time. And it's really tough because the general internet, like, business landscape is not in a very cool place right now. So we're talking about ad sales and clicks and engagements, and if you're verified you can make a little money, but you got to go really viral, and we're all playing algorithm games, and all of that is really, really difficult to dig out of.
And it's genuine discourse is something that used to exist in a lot of these forums and platforms that has just absolutely vanished. The more and bigger the platforms have gotten, and the more and the things have gotten done there. If you're, and this is 100% Josh's point, if you're willing to have genuine discourse on your take, whether it's a horrible one or not, I'm far more willing to listen to what you have to say than if you're doing, like I said, the victim after you said the dumb thing and didn't want to have the like I can't do that with you, because we don't,
and also
with all the places we get it from. He mentioned there's how many hundreds of hours of audio from this week.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have time to listen to you for that. What are we doing?
Yeah, and also if your main take is that Andy Reid's X, Y, and Z because of his health, then you are automatically losing points in my eyes. So yeah,
and so like there's like the Warren Sharp thing about like the refereeing crew benefiting the road team. And it was like, hey, actually, like it's an all-star crew, and that's not really how these crews work. Or the stuff about the practice facilities. And it's absolutely insane that the Niners are at UNLV and the Chiefs are playing at the Raiders facilities, as if that doesn't alternate every single year. That kind of stuff doesn't deserve oxygen.
The human that said that is a pure, everything that the human that said what Josh just quoted is a pure clickbait troll. His whole brand, persona, everything.
And I assume by and large, if that's your whole brand, it's because you're not capable of engaging in the more honest way of analyzing, just like the world. And again, that doesn't mean there's no rubber stamp. Playing in the NFL doesn't mean you're going to have good takes. Not playing in the NFL doesn't mean you're going to have bad takes. You have to judge the
the
width
guy I
and
mentioned as a
breadth of their
clickbait
work.
troll played in the NFL.
Played in the
Yeah.
NFL.
There's a couple
And-
out there, yeah.
And so, right, it's hard to actually make sure you know which one we're talking about.
Yeah,
And that is frustrating because you have to take the entirety of what this person is, but you might not know this person's entire life. That's, again, it becomes very difficult, and we're all interacting 100 and whatever characters at a time, and everything gets toxic, and then the website gets worse and worse and worse over the period of about a year, and now we're here.
yeah.
Yep, we sure are.
Tough scenes.
Yeah.
Well, to spin off and kind of wrap up, I want to use one of those horrible, godforsaken websites that we deal with on a regular basis, and talk about an interesting stat that I don't know if I've seen it before. Trey Wingo is the one that put it up here, but this will be the 4th coaching rematch in Super Bowl history.
Hmm.
And
Pretty
all
cool.
3 prior went to the guy that won the first one the second time as well. Those
Yep.
instances were Chuck Noll and Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson and Marv Levy, and Tom Coughlin and Bill Belichick. Hey, Giants-Patriots reference again.
How funny is that Bill Belichick in that stat is one of the losing coaches?
Yeah. Well, and so is Tom Landry, by the way, because the guy he
Fair.
lost to was Chuck Noll.
Yep.
And
No
both
offense to
of
Tom
those dudes-
Coughlin, but
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Historically, it has not worked out.
So,
yeah.
From that kind of perspective, we did a lot of talk with legacy stuff. Who for you from that? I know Andy's an easy answer for legacy questions, but is he the biggest one that has the most legacy stuff on this game, or
it's a
is
good
it
question.
or is it Patrick, or is it Chris, or is it Brett, or is it Spags? Because there's so many guys for this Chiefs team because of what this dynasty can mean to their total career.
Yeah.
Oh, we did almost an hour and 20 minutes on it yesterday on it to an extent, but like it's just such a fascinating thing for me. I like to get everybody's opinion on it.
It's a fun question, and it's hard for me to not have it be Reed or Mahomes, and so let me talk through it and see. I'll try to give at least one non-head coach, non-quarterback answer. But for Andy Reid, it further cements him as one of the greatest coaches of all time. And when we are talking about things that are so amorphous as legacy, you do have a little bit of judging by the way the conversations go. And so I think everyone's going to have Andy Reid amongst the greatest coaches in NFL history forever now, because getting 1 trophy was big for him. Getting 2 means, hey, we're no fluke. Getting 3 is that the Kansas City Chiefs are in dynasty mode, that it's probably the best 5-year stretch in NFL history for any team ever, which sets you up pretty well to expand that out to the best 10-year stretch. And for Mahomes, the only way he's going to be able to get like GOAT status is with Super Bowls, and that's not fair or the way that we should do it, but it's just kind of how it's going to go. If Brady has all his rings and Mahomes retires with 5, there will be some amount of conversation of like, listen, Brady was an incredible winner. He did over this period of time. But Mahomes got 5, and look at everything else his career was. That's a conversation you can have.
Yeah.
But if Mahomes ends up, I like saying this out loud is so stupid. But if Mahomes ends up with 8, it's not a conversation. It just ends there. So
Yep.
I think they both have things they can add to their legacies. I think Kelsey's in a similar boat where Super Bowls don't define tight ends. You can have, Tony Gonzalez, but also Gronk gets a ton of extra juice for being a Patriot and then a Buck and winning with Brady and all of that. So I think that could help. I kind of want to say Spags, because you can go back to Chiefs Patriot or to Giants Patriots, and then you can go to these 2 Super Bowls that he's already got. There really is, like, somebody else started this first. It may have been one of the guys in the Athletic Football Show or something, but like there's an argument building for greatest defensive coordinator of all time by resume, by opponent, by the stretch that this playoff stretch has been on. And he's become kind of one of the main characters of this team. And I think that's really cool also. So I kind of want to go Spags as my little like alternate answer, but it's really, really hard for anything other than coach or quarterback to kind of outrank that, because we do judge coaches and quarterbacks by Super Bowls.
Yeah, I think Chris Jones might be the only other like kind of notable guy that like maybe a guy who at the end of his career might be kind of a fringe Hall of Famer. And so some like these, a couple more rings might kind of push that over the top. But really, yeah.
Weirdly, all the linemen also kind of get that. We're like, if you're a lineman with 3 rings, it's like,
that's
well,
huge.
Yeah, like
guess
Joe
we gotta put him
Tooney
in there.
has an argument for that, despite the fact that he doesn't have a stat line. Because if you're a lineman, just like everyone said he was great and he won a bunch of rings. So
that's true. Yeah, but I think ultimately when you talk about championships and Super Bowls and legacies and stuff like that, the coaching staff definitely plays a big factor into it. And both Andy and Spags doing it at multiple places, I think really cements that.
Yes,
Andy
agreed.
took the Eagles to multiple NFC championships, completely reshaped that team. The Spags did it with the Giants. He got a ring with them, and then he gets 2 with us. It's really impressive to see just how really it's all come together, and it's been the perfect storm of just everything that seems to have culminated with this Chiefs team being really, really good. So yeah,
really good and widely hated for it. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, I've got to bounce. Kyle, I want you to close it out with my guy Josh here. Josh, I appreciate you coming on. I'll let you guys finish the episode out, but it's been great talking to you, and yeah, good luck in everything that you do going forward.
Thank you, man. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah.
All
now that we got that scrub out of here.
Yeah, I there's a couple little things left we can finish up with, and then we can get out of here.
Let's do it.
No, I think your point about the legacy for Andy and Pat, when you mentioned the 5 Super Bowls versus like 7, I think this one would be big because it would be a back-to-back, which is something that group did. It would also be a back-to-back, but a back-to-back with a year they were basically 2 years they weren't supposed to win it either year. Technically speaking, they weren't supposed to win, and I can tell you this: they weren't supposed to win it because before the Super Bowl last year, when Kansas legalized sports betting and gave away all that free money that they gave away, they were really long odds to win a Super Bowl, and they were pretty long odds for Patrick to win an MVP, and I put some funds on both of those and had a very nice end to the Super Bowl last year because of how unexpected they were. They were in the plus thousands and up category of odds for winning a Super Bowl. So and then to turn around this year to go back to back, to continue to play more football than anybody else in the league, and for your quarterback to be the highest cap percentage in the history of cap percentages in the salary cap era. They get it done this year. Man, it's no different. So I don't know if you saw it. We talked a little bit about the crazy questions. I swear I basically saw somebody ask Travis Kelce if he was proposing to Taylor Swift if they won the Super Bowl.
I didn't see that, but I don't doubt that it was asked.
And his facial expression was essentially, huh? It was, I believe that it was phrased, if you guys win a ring, are you the only one getting a ring that night? Which was...
Yeah, like what if you would have just been like, "Oh yeah, that is my plan." Like that's, but you're asking a question to get an answer to it.
And so like
I get it.
But what do you want? And this is where, for me, I guess I get questions. And you being in the media, being a media person, I know that I don't want to do the whole let's not talk about industry standards for things, but like,
oh, I'm done.
How do we get some of the people that ask some of these questions that they ask? How are they allowed to in some of these instances? But like, what are we doing? Why is the question, like with Brock Purdy? Why is he being basically forced into a yes or no answer on something that you know is going to get played 12 billion times and it's not the kid's fault?
Yeah. For the specifics of media night, it is just sort of like the purge of NFL media nights, where it's just like, hey, everything's legal. We can't stop all of you. Storm Area 51. We can't stop everyone. So that one I think is like almost that simple. And the alternative is that they protect their players from stupid questions more often, and they don't have as much fun out of media night, as much content out of media night. So I think that's a trade the NFL has made that, contrarily, the Chiefs don't want to make. For the Chiefs, it's not worth it for you to hear. We're going to keep using the same example. Sorry. But it's not worth it for the Chiefs for you to hear from Kadarius Toney while he's injured and not really and not active or not active in practice or whatever. It doesn't really benefit the Chiefs for you to talk to MVS when he doesn't really want to talk for the content. Because the Chiefs aren't in it for content. The Chiefs are in it to win games. The NFL's in it for content, and both teams have to deal with it. So it's, it's fine, I guess. In terms of like, when you are kind of looking at what one person is doing, I think it was Scott Hansen who asked like the Taylor Swift question, right?
Yeah.
We've seen Scott Hansen do like fabulous work on the most incredible TV show maybe ever made.
Yes.
And Scott Hansen understands like how this works, right? I don't think he would have asked, to be clear, he would not have asked Travis Kelce, will Taylor be disappointed if you're the only one who gets a ring on Sunday? Scott Hansen's not asking that. In that moment, it's him being like an MC on stage and kind of trying, he's got a literal crowd of people and all these teams.
And I'll be fair to Scott here. I don't think he wrote that question, probably.
And there's a really good chance. There's a really good chance that someone was like, "Hey, you can go this way." I haven't done, like TV media reporting kind of like that range, so I can't fully speak on that, I guess. But yeah, like it's an NFL Network production and an NFL production. There's a lot of moving parts that go into that.
And so these are all things, and Super Bowl week is the week where the whole outside world is involved, and there's all these weird things, and there's all this stuff, and I think we saw it with, I brought up those to bring up the responses that we got from the 49ers, whether it be the holding talk before we ever even got to the Super Bowl, because you don't traditionally interview owners before games. That's not a thing that normally happens. So you don't normally get
his
owners
scrum was
talking
kind of
about
weird,
stuff.
but sometimes that does change from team to team for what it's worth. The Chiefs certainly don't do that.
But this Chiefs team, the outside world's been involved for like a half decade now, but this year more so than any other in all of the regular games because of the Taylor Swift aspect, because Travis Kelce's podcast is the size of what Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce's podcast is, because Patrick is a global star at this point, which we've been talking about it for like a while now. The laundry list of things I never thought I would say as a Chiefs fan continues to just grow and grow and grow and grow every time we talk about him or this team. Like, yeah, your quarterback is a global icon. Never in my
life. And now
your
tight end is an even bigger one.
Yeah. And so it's like, huh? And so that being the case, I don't know. This seems business as usual. Yeah. And I know that Patrick called it a business trip and told him he'd take him back to Vegas, and some people are taking that as like no. First of all, he literally took them to Vegas, I think, last year after the Miami thing.
I think that literally happened, and it's a great line, and it's true.
But they don't seem remotely bothered, and a lot of it has to do with Andy and the Chiefs PR team and how they handle all that and the media preparation, because they spend a lot of time on it. And we know that, you know that from working with them, but as fans that have watched and been around a long time, we all know that because you were talking about the schedules and stuff earlier. How does this team operate with the business as usual? It's an advantage, right? Like, I feel like that's an advantage to them. Having the Taylor Swift stuff, having Travis, having Patrick, having it all the time, constantly be maybe not as big of a circus because there's just not as many national media members in the Chiefs stuff as traditional, but it's still a circus routinely. They still got to deal with TMZ articles every other week about sources saying Travis isn't going to the Grammys because turns out he has a job and like
he has a job. That's right.
So for you as a person who's in the media side of stuff and sees this kind of stuff, I know that, and you're especially in the Chiefs scene, this feels like, yeah, it's a little bit bigger, but it's the same day-to-day stuff for them.
Well, here's the crazy thing that also fits on the laundry list. It seems like business as usual because it's business as usual. Because the Chiefs season, 4 out of the last 5 years, has gone into February. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes both talked about their Super Bowl week routine. Their what? Their Super Bowl week routine. That is actually part of it. And so, like, and obviously Shanahan's been to a Super Bowl as a head coach and then also as a coordinator. And I don't think he's like in over his head right now, but the Chiefs literally know what it's like. Like they have done this. They have walked in these footsteps. And then I think it's about the coaching to some extent and having kind of a unified vision there that Andy Reid's able to kind of set. But I do think it would be selling the guys short not to highlight the specific players who are often put in those positions, where Patrick Mahomes, and like this is like not cool and sucks to note, Patrick Mahomes' dad got arrested the day before the biggest media night of the year, and I wasn't worried that he was going to flub something. Travis Kelce is the biggest star in American football right now. He's an international star out of American football in a way that doesn't really happen and certainly doesn't happen to non-quarterbacks. I've never worried about him saying something he shouldn't say about Taylor Swift or like letting a detail slip, because I can't remember who it was that said this originally. It may have been Andy in a presser a week or two ago, but he's still Travis Kelce doing Travis Kelce things. The podcast started before Taylor Swift was around because obviously they talked about it on the podcast, but like that was something they were already doing. And Travis Kelce did and maybe regrets and learned from a reality show before he was like the Travis Kelce.
He hates that reality show.
But you know what? He figured out what it means to have made a show that he kind of hates, that other people kind of hated, that got used against him and made fun of and all of that stuff. He wanted to be a star. And he had the tools to be one, both as a player and as a personality. And this is something that you see only when you only really notice this when it goes bad. He also had what it takes to be a star and not crumble under that at some point. I don't know how many people really do have that gene, because eventually a lot of child actors are rushed through a whole lot of stuff and they get spat out in a place where they have to rebuild a whole bunch of life, despite the fact they were very famous very young. You'll find not even just they're brutal. Not even just child actors, but other actors, people who get famous and then their life seems to get worse.
Lottery winners. There's a lot of lottery winners that deal with getting really rich really fast, and then it's a whole spot.
And Travis Kelce won the genetic lottery, and then won the NFL lottery, and won the coaching and quarterback lottery, and won the girlfriend lottery, and the superstar lottery. Dude has been cashing lottery checks for a long time now, to the point that this is who he is, and this is what his life is like, and he's built for it. Again, Taylor Swift, built for it, clearly. The idea that she's scrolling on Twitter being like, there are a lot of middle-aged men who are very upset at me for the first time ever. Like, that's not a quarter of my discography dealing with what that's like as a super famous woman. Like, that's just kind of that's part of the DNA that obviously Mahomes has, and, you know, MLB locker rooms and all the stories that have been told. It's Justin Reed is by and large built for it. I'm going to mention his one slip up because there was one slip up. He's back on Twitter again now, I guess, so that's kind of cool. But that's something where I think the Chiefs do pick their leaders well. Chris Jones had a very loud holdout and has said some things he probably shouldn't have said. And still, by and large, Chris Jones, as one of the leaders of your football team, you are not just okay with, you're excited about. So it really is a cultural thing that I think is in some part Brett Veach, in some part Andy Reid, in some part the assistant coaches, and in a big way the players too.
Yeah, and I love that you highlighted the players taking ownership and control of it, because that's, I think, probably the factor that doesn't get talked about enough. Because you can, we see organizations all the time. You can preach and teach and tell. I'm sure every player on earth was told not to bet on property or on games or near games or any of that stuff, and yet it's not happened once. It's happened multiple times across the league. Like, so we see all that stuff. And so them being that level of ability to adapt, I do want to point out, I think it's important, apparently, for this team's secondary, especially the leader of their secondary, to be vocally active on Twitter against people who they have problems with. I think it's just a requirement at this point.
Yeah, when they don't have it, they don't win. So I think
Travis's beard is a requirement. When he shaved it, they were terrible.
That's right.
So they figured out.
The beard's getting more powerful through the playoffs. That's what's happening. It's just Yukon Cornelius over here is gonna put up 12 and 150 and 2 touchdowns.
Just getting stronger and stronger, and so from that aspect, it's quite fun. I do want to touch 2 actual football things with you before we get out of here. One being Travis Kelce and it's legacy and football, because he's now in conversations with Jerry Rice. So being in conversations with Jerry Rice, he needs, he's made it kind of clear throughout media day that he's not done and not retiring after this year. He's having, fun playing with the best quarterback on the planet. It turns out it's a good thing for your career. So with that in mind, he only needs like a couple more runs like this. And he has not one of the untouchable Jerry Rice records, not 2 of them, but he'll have all of them if he continues to make a couple of runs like they've made this year. From that perspective, in this matchup with the 49ers, and we just talked about the Yukon Cornelius beard, are we getting Yukon Cornelius with the beard and the 12 for 150 and 2? Do they find a way to slow? And I love Fred Warner. Mm-hmm. He's a great player. We've seen this 1,000 times in the past.
That's
right. I love Derwin James too, but
so everybody who listened to Times Ours and Now Only Weird Games knows what to think about Matt Milano. We've been told. Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, man. Like, Fred Warner's an incredible football player, and if you tell him to cover Travis Kelce one-on-one, you're asking him to do something impossible. It's like, that doesn't because it doesn't work. You can do it incredibly well, and it's not gonna work because he doesn't really obey the rules of like football or physics. And so yeah, I do think we're gonna get a Travis Kelce game, because I think, as you saw really throughout the playoffs as a whole to this point, but especially in the AFC Championship game, Mahomes has 3 weapons that he wants to go to, and then other guys who he will go to. And that's important. That's okay. Like, you don't, not most teams don't have 6 weapons the quarterback's just dying to feed. But Isaiah Pacheco needs to get the football, and you can do it in a way that takes a little bit of the weight off of Mahomes' shoulders in the running game. But really, Travis Kelce's going to get that damn football over and over and over again, because there's nothing left to hide. There's no energy left to save. There's no further game to prepare for. What you need here is the best possible version of Travis Kelce, the best possible version of Patrick Mahomes, and for them to be locked in on the same page, all the things we've seen them be in the biggest moments. Why wouldn't we get that? If you wanted to get kind of like outside the range, and the kind of obviously the third weapon being Rashee Rice, here's a rookie in a Super Bowl, and that has not gotten talked about very much to this point. I haven't heard him talk a lot this week, and maybe the Chiefs kind of were like, "Hey, man, we're not gonna put you in the brightest spotlights. This is your first time. Most of these dudes have been here before because we did it last year." But that's a side story to the fact that I do think we're gonna get everything that Travis Kelce has in this game. And if the Niners do limit it, it's going to come at a cost. It's not just Fred Warner, but it's Fred Warner and what else you do to key in on Travis Kelce. And then it is up to the rookie in the Super Bowl. You got to be the one that makes these plays in the passing game, because somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, and we've even seen at points where even if they do take extra resources to take Travis away, sometimes Travis just decides that also doesn't matter.
Yep.
So
doesn't make sense.
Him standing on stage, and you mentioned it with his eyes, with like basically lighting up like a little kid that walked out to the Christmas tree and found the toy that it asked Santa for under the tree. He was like, "Oh, I have a microphone, and y'all are booing me. Oh, I'm going to enjoy that." Like, if there's a thing that I think he might look at doing post NFL career, the WWE sure seems like a fit.
Oh, that would be fun.
I don't know.
Yeah, that would be good.
With McAfee doing his thing over there, that just feels like a natural marriage. I don't know. But the other thing I wanted to talk football wise is we talked Spags so much. I don't want to be overconfident, but I need you to maybe tell me if I'm being overconfident. I think he's going to make Brock Purdy hate his whole existence in this Super Bowl from basically start to finish, because he just put Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Tua in a blender. And if you're telling me that you think Brock Purdy, and I'm not, you being the proverbial you, not Josh in this case, audience, but that guy is in any of those 3 dudes, and whatever your feelings are on Tua, but especially the first 2,
yes,
I can't go there with you.
Yeah.
And as creative as Shanahan has been, and the weaponry thing, this defense has had an answer for everyone and everything all season. Motion, receivers, tight ends, running games, whatever the statement is that we've said that, this defense may struggle with this week, they've been like, yeah, no.
I don't think you're being overconfident. And I think I'd put Purdy 3 on those 4 quarterbacks if we're playing that game. We talked about that some on 8-10 today with the zone. I think he's 3. I don't think he's close to 2. I think he's probably closer to 4 than 2. But like I a little bit out on Tua at this point. I think, I don't know, maybe that's me being a little recency bias there. But the thing that I do, I mean, you mentioned, you covered your bases on this. The thing that I do wonder about is I do think Spags is going to do some diabolical stuff to Brock Purdy. Like, I think that he is going to show him stuff that he hasn't seen. I think he's going to challenge him in ways that Purdy's going to have to come up with answers for. I do think Brock Purdy is a good enough quarterback to have some answers. The question is, what happens when you don't? If you don't have the answers and you make a big mistake, it's ball game. Like, I really think that's what it is. If you could guarantee me 2 Brock Purdy turnovers, that's the only stat I'd want to know. If you could give me like one limited peek at all of this. So that's part of it. I do wonder what Shanahan is going to do, because knowing Spags and being at the forefront of this offense in a way that has done things differently and has built this sort of revolutionary thing that everybody's cheating off of and stealing from. I wonder right now, truth serum, does Kyle Shanahan feel like he has answers for what Spag is going to bring? I honestly, I think he probably does feel like he has that. Truth serum it right back around again. Is Spags worried about it? Does he have the counterpunch to the counterpunch? And also, will this game be within a field goal at halftime? Because if so, I'm going to take the Chiefs' halftime defensive adjustments. That has been a consistent stalwart of this team this year. So I am also like pretty confident in where the Chiefs' defense stands. I do think that with this team, with this Niners team, that could still mean a 20-something point performance from the Niners. And then it's back on the Chiefs offense, and we're having a perfect fitting ending to this season. But yeah, man, in Spags we trust is more than just words on a very expensive t-shirt. It counts for something, and I really am with you on that.
Did you happen to procure your very expensive / charity donation t-shirt?
I did.
Good.
I almost backed out. Had shipping and processing issues, all of that. They did say they were going to try to get it out, that it was going to be out for the Super Bowl, which I saw that and I was like, I'm not going to have my heart set on that. I don't think I've gotten a shipping notification yet or anything, and it's starting to get a little late. So we'll see if that makes it out in time, but it would be a real bummer to have that shirt get here after the Chiefs lose to the Niners 34-20.
Yeah.
That would be kind of.
I don't know that there's too much to worry about there. I think if the Chiefs do manage somehow not win this game, they do lose this game, it won't be a wild loss. It will be a very close football game. I don't know that it couldn't be the other way if they do happen to win it, though. That's one of the things I think is most interesting about this, and I'm sure we'll get into more as the week progresses as we go. But we do want to take this time and say thank you to Josh for joining us. I know Garrett's been gone for a little bit, but wanted to finish that up with a couple little more things. Thank you for taking some time after another busy day of wild Chiefs behavior. And as you mentioned, behind the curtain, this is a Tuesday we're recording this, so if you don't hear it till Wednesday or maybe Thursday, well, you won't hear it till at least Wednesday. But if you don't hear it till Thursday, there's probably crazy stuff that happened in between there that we haven't talked about. We'll get to it. So,
and if you're listening to it on Thursday night, Nate may have done something obscene on Thursday's Weird Game stream because it's just we're doing another show on Thursday. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and hopefully, if you guys haven't, you guys go check out Josh and Nate and Seth and the guys over at Only Weird Games over on KCSN. Josh is also on the Zone with Jason Anderson on 810 Sports Radio 810 Kansas City. For those of you who aren't in the Kansas City area, like myself, you can find him on TuneIn. You can find him on the Sports Radio 810 app for that. I believe it's 10 to 2, yes?
Yes, 10 to 2. We also video stream it across the 810 social, so that's all there.
Twitch chat. If you guys want, 810's Twitch chat used to be the hangout spot for some stuff for the almost entirely sports crew, which was Josh's old show in the evenings. But now that he's moved up to the day show, we get some daytime Twitch action.
You could be on Twitch during the day. Who knew?
Yeah. So thank you again, Josh. Anywhere else they can find you? Anything else? I know your Twitter account there is at the bottom of the screen. Is that all your social handles?
Yeah, I'm at JB Brisco everywhere. No E. JB Brisco. And yeah, arrowheadreport.com. We've got stuff going up there all week and trying to make some sense out of the madness and trying to find the best bits of this Super Bowl Media Week. Obviously, Jordan Foote and I doing most of the lifting over there. Really, Jordan doing most of the lifting, if we're honest. Yeah, if you find any of the socials, and you'll hopefully find all the links to everything else there too.
Thank you again for coming on. Find us at all of our normal spots at Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. It will help us tremendously grow it. Anything else you guys have? Josh, you have any final thoughts before? I know you're going to have about 1 billion chances to say any more thoughts you've got going forward this week. So any final thoughts up to this point?
I still think Kadarius Toney deserves 3 or 4 more shots at being a number 1 receiver. I think get that guy the ball early and often on Sunday. No, I'm sure I'll end up with more thoughts at some point, but they'll trickle out throughout the rest of the week as we deal with this madness. So thanks for having me on again. And I don't want to make it sound like I won't come on again for another year, but if you want to just do this every year leading up to a Chiefs Super Bowl, if that's what we have to do to keep this pattern going, I am in.
I'm fine with it as long as they just keep going to Super Bowls. We don't mind substituting in a couple appearances every in between, but definitely at the Super Bowl time, we always want to make sure to have you on. So if you want to hear the rest of Josh's thoughts, which I don't know why you wouldn't, you'll be able to find him on his Twitter or on the numerous places he's going to record different things for the rest of the week. Check him out. Go follow us. Thank you guys for tuning in and have a good one and go Chiefs.